So this is a model that I've wanted to have for a long time. Originally I wanted to get a model train of it, preferably HO. But I mostly like it because of the paint scheme. For some reason I think it suits this particular locomotive very well. This is an EMD GP35, which were produced in the mid-60s for a range of railroads. And they had about 2,500 horsepower, at least as measured in diesel-electric locomotives. Their top speed was usually 65 miles an hour. There wasn't a huge variation in gearings as far as I know. Somebody could correct me on that. And they were used mostly for fast freight and general freight. Being road switchers, you could also use them as switchers. But in the 60s, there were a lot of smaller yard switchers still in service. The Santa Fe held on to these until their demise, even though many railroads got rid of them much sooner. They were the last locomotives built in any quantity by EMD, which had the old 567 prime mover from 1939. It was the 567 D3A, which was a turbocharged variant of it. The most powerful turbocharged variant with 16 cylinders. And if we look at some of the later liveries here, in the 70s, this will come up. In the 70s, the Santa Fe introduced this so-called freight bonnet scheme. SoCalTrains, who did this model, call this the yellow bonnet, which I think is technically incorrect because the yellow bonnet was actually a war bonnet which had been converted to yellow after the Amtrak takeover. Basically, passenger F units got that scheme because they were cascaded to freight service after Amtrak took over, if they were not turned over to Amtrak. But this is the freight bonnet scheme, which was used by the Santa Fe for most of their freight locomotives from about 1973 until their merger into BNSF in 1996. Now, if we look at the BNSF version that SoCalTrains made, this, as far as I know, is authentic. The handful of GP35s that survived into BNSF ownership were not, for the most part, repainted into BNSF livery, at least not initially. Instead, they were renumbered and then given BNSF patches. Although this particular one, 2531, doesn't appear to have received the BNSF lettering on the side. A lot of former Santa Fe locomotives got it, especially the war bonnet units, because BNSF tried to hold on to them. Because many of them were fairly new, they were used for fast freight service, especially intermodal. So there was some prestige to be had from it. But in any case, the GP35 here is not actually the reason for my doing this video. Instead, I want to do a test run, basically a demonstration, of the final segment of my mainline project, at least the division that I started with. In reality, the project has grown to such a size that it could be never finished, potentially. But the original division that I started on was finished last week, and I've been trying to do some bug fixing ever since to do a demonstration run over the newest section. So I'm going to do that now with the GP35. So we'll go to the driver and we'll take a quick tour in the free camera mode, and then I'll do the run.